let's go to our second theme. All right. A larger theme here is about retention in HR. And the inspiration for this next debate comes from a post that I saw by Vaso Parisinou, and I really hope that I pronounce her name correctly, Chief People Officer at a company called Ravio. Let me share with you what she wrote. She wrote, "The people team paradox, responsible for retention, but has the highest turnover. Manage compensation, but their own salaries are falling. Own and build career frameworks, but often lack clear paths themselves. Which roles have the highest turnover?" And this is per Ravio data. So the company she works for gathered data about this. And it was talent acquisition and people partners. Meanwhile, she continues, interim or fractional head of people roles are rising as experienced pros choose flexibility over stability. And here's the reality. We can't build stable, thriving companies without stable, thriving people teams. So people teams, what are we doing wrong? Maybe it's time we turn some of that retention strategy inward. Now, I thought this was food for thought, and it also brings me to our second statement of today, and here goes. It's impossible for a company to thrive if their people team isn't thriving. Now, it's impossible for a company to thrive if their people team isn't thriving. Okay, Sandra, I will start with you for the second statement. Do you agree or do you not agree with this?
I agree, but I want to say that short term, the company can thrive, but long term, no.
Thank you. Okay, Mariana, what do you say about this?
I agree with Sandra. I feel that it's very hard to sustain long-term thriving company if the HR is not thriving.
Okay, interesting. Okay, Sandra, going back to you, please share a little bit more about this.
Absolutely. So I think that we who work with HR, we have the tools, we have the knowledge on how to thrive, to make someone else grow, or to make sure that you are engaged at work. But I mean, working in HR, you are nothing more than a human being, like every other department employee. And HR is often doing a lot of work in the quiet. No one sees it, no one hears it, because I don't tell my colleagues if I've had a really tough conversation in my office, because it's my job and I can't tell anyone what happens in here. So I think for HR, I think a lot of us has been in situations where we are making sure that we are engaged, we are developing ourselves, but we still need a management or a manager who sees us and sees the work we do. And if we don't, I mean, we can exist for a long time without getting the confirmation from our boss that we're doing something good. But eventually, it comes down to us being human beings and also needing the feedback, needing to be seen and heard. And if we're not, long term, I think it's going to hurt the organization. We won't thrive for long if it's just continuing like that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mariana, please tell me what you have to say.
Yeah, I think HR is a really difficult job in the sense that it's one of these that where everybody has an opinion. Almost everyone knows how to do the job better, and it's one of these professions where people have a lot of opinions how things should be done. At the same time, it's exactly like you said, Sandra. It's one of these often unseen, unheard, and it's if you do your job well, a lot of the stuff is not seen and not heard. And I've sometimes said that HR is like being a cleaner. It just sort of nobody sees it when you do your job well, but if something goes wrong, and then the mess starts to build up. So I think there's a part of that as well. People come into this profession because they are really into people and they want to help people. And then the harsh reality is that there is often repetitive tasks. There are a lot of unpleasant tasks, and not everybody can be doing the sort of exciting HR strategy, and not everybody can work with employee well-being. So I think there might be a bit of that it's sometimes the vision is better or sort of more rosy than the actual reality. So I think there could be that when some people then just feel that this was not exactly what I wanted. But I haven't seen a lot of turnover here. Maybe it's in some other locations, but I wouldn't say that there's a high turnover in Finland. How is that in Sweden, Sandra?
Positions, and I think you mentioned maybe some of the positions like talent acquisition. I think those positions, it's a higher turnover. And I think that might sometimes have to do with the expectations from the organization. I mean, you can work in talent acquisition and you can recruit the best talents, but if you don't have managers actually working to keep those talents, if you don't have a good company culture, which HR can create by themselves, you can do a great job as a recruiter, but still you won't have enough people for your company because people will leave. And I think maybe that could be part of why some in talent acquisition choose to leave, because when you're working tirelessly, getting the right people in your company, and then you see them leaving in a couple of months, it's quite demotivating.
Yeah, no. I can imagine. And by the way, you have actually a background as well in recruitment, right, Sandra? So I guess that you could speak from experience there as well. Yeah, I can totally imagine that. And it was one of the things that I was curious about, and I wanted to ask both of you is like, is this even something that you are also noticing? Is there a lot of turnover in the people team or not? Because of course, this can change from one company to another actually already. So that was one of the things I wanted to ask both of you. So the answer to that is not really. Something else I wanted to ask both of you is, so let's say it is the case that because we do know, at least we see these statistics and articles, that quite a lot of HR professionals, they are having a tough time for all the reasons that I think we already touched on. Could one of those reasons also be that there is no HR for HR? That's also a popular topic at the moment, HR for HR, actually the lack of HR for HR. Could that be something that plays a role here? Sorry. So Sandra, let me start with you for this one.
I think maybe no, because as talent acquisition specialist or working with talent acquisition, you often have a manager, and that's usually the HR manager. And I'm hoping that HR managers are better managers than other managers because we are coaching the managers, so we should be good managers ourselves. I know that it's not always the case, but I think maybe not. I know that there is, if you ask the people hiring people in talent acquisition, they are going to say that there's not enough good recruiters out there. But I think it once again comes back to there's a lot of good recruiters out there, but there's a lot of organizations not being able to keep the recruited staff. So it's not the recruiters doing a bad job; it's the organization not successfully keeping the people on.
Thank you. Okay, Mariana, what are your thoughts on this?
I feel that having a good HR network of your own is really important, because if you have a few friends, 1, 2, who you can really trust and who know what the work is about, that is like being HR for HR. And for me, at least, that is a good sounding board at times when going gets a bit tough, and it's good to have somebody who you can say, hey, I had a really difficult one, and they understand very easily what the work is like, and you don't necessarily have anybody in the company to discuss with. So I think that is like, if you can find yourself a good network of HR, that would be like your HR for HR. But I also agree that the talent acquisition, and that's an interesting debate, should it be within HR or not? But at least talent acquisition is that role that is, for those reasons, like you said, is often misunderstood. And if the whole team doesn't play the same game, the recruiter cannot succeed. And then it can be very, very difficult. And then it is important to have others there who help. And maybe if the recruiter doesn't feel comfortable enough to guide their hiring managers in the role, to have somebody who can help them with that, because it's exactly that. If the hiring manager drops the ball, you can't make a goal.
No. I mean, I have not worked in talent acquisition, but just listening to both of you here, I can imagine that can feel quite lonely at times, actually, to be in that position.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much. That was number 2.